Okay, we love to talk politics on Talkback. It's one of the things we love to do, and we are thrilled and honored to have with us in the studio this morning one of the candidates, one of the only candidates running for mayor. She is Lisa Triepke, and Lisa, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I had the honor of going to your inaugural press conference, and it was quite the wingding affair, and lots of people there, lots of people supporting you. Some very clever visuals by Spiker Communications, by the way, to help kick off your run for mayor. So tell us a little bit about Lisa Triepke. You know, that you've been in Missoula for a long time, and why in the world you want to run for mayor?
Well, thanks again for having me. I have been in Missoula since 1991, and I've been actively involved in the community both through work and volunteer efforts, and my passion for Missoula runs incredibly deep. I think that there's the reason that, like, for me, as well as other people, we live here for the connection to the people and the land. And
okay, all right. Then so you have 4 kids, right?
Yes, I do.
And so how are they feeling about this whole mayoral experience?
They're supportive. They range in ages from 18 to 14, and they've seen me involved in other endeavors, and they've seen the pros and the cons of that, and they're super excited and seeing me reach outside my box, but also they realize that there's some pros and cons that come with the whole thing.
So lest you think that she doesn't have what it takes to be mayor, she's a mom to 4 teenagers, okay?
They're all teenagers?
They are. There's 4 within 4 years of each other.
What did you do wrong to end up in that situation? Just joking. I guess I'll probably be here shortly.
Yes.
Question for you, though. When it comes to, because we're all watching this situation in Missoula, the mayor here is a very powerful position. And I guess I would like your analysis of that job. What do you think are some of the requirements for that job, the skill sets needed for that job, and how do you think you fill those?
I think that there's a few definite requirements for the job, and you need to be fiscally responsible and be able to work within a budget and get projects done on time and under budget if possible. I think that we need to strive to represent all Missoulians and not just a few people with a few people making decisions behind closed doors. There's a certain set of leadership skills that come with a position in that power, and that's listening and working with trying to represent everybody that lives here. We have a large, diverse group of people in Missoula, and I don't think, from what I'm hearing, that a lot of them are being heard right now.
So what people do you think in Missoula are not being heard right now? And basically, each of those 3 points, I took it as a little bit of a glancing blow at the current administration. So maybe you could explain the budget, explain the people talking about things behind closed doors, and explain the people not being represented a little bit.
So I'm not bashing John at all. I think that being the mayor is a tough position, but our campaign is running on 4 points, and those are fiscal responsibility and exercising fiscal responsibility and prioritizing projects, maintaining infrastructure in a timely manner and in an efficient manner so that we are staying on top of bread and butter services that all of our citizens should expect, whether it's potholes or snowplows or
police and fire.
Right. And it's interesting, too, because it seems like there's a rush to judgment on a lot of the projects going on right now. And I think that at some point we could slow down and really take a good look at what the projects are and prioritize them in a better manner, possibly.
You know, we spent the last 3 years, Missoula and the city council and the mayor and everybody else agonizing over the mountain water deal. All right. Had you been mayor, okay, when all this was going down, would you have pursued this condemnation deal? Would you have been willing to take the city with you into this morass of legal, technical jargon and a very expensive trial and $10 million in extra legal fees and lots of upset feelings and lots of trepidation over, can we afford it? Are we going to get the bonds? Is that something that you would have initiated just yourself?
I think where I feel about the Mountain Water Company issue is that there didn't seem to be any real input from the community on that. And from people that I've talked to, I don't think that there was really a financial analysis done prior to the fact. So I think the costs have doubled, if not more, and some of those are excess legal fees. But I think that had there been clear constituent input, there would have been a different outcome.
In my conversations with the mayor before all this really began rolling, his passion seems to have been that he just couldn't stand the idea of a powerful global conglomerate owning Missoula's water, and in his view, not taking good care of the system. A lot of leakage, things like that came out in the trial. Is that something that you would agree with or not?
Well, again, I go back to one of my campaign points about constituent involvement and transparency. I think that had there been a thorough financial assessment done, then the answers may or may not have been different. I think that there was just some decisions made behind closed doors. So for me, it's the fact that I don't think it was a thorough process.
There's one of the questions I have when it comes to openness is the question that lingers from the purchase bond amount that was kind of passed out a couple of days ago, or a week ago?
Yeah, $140 million, right?
$140 million. And, you go to the store as a regular citizen, you see a thing of milk for $2.50, and you come to the counter and throw down a $5. You expect change. But in this case, we had a $93 million purchase price, and we asked for $140 million. Do you understand what all the extra money is for, where it's going? And do you feel that the administration currently has been open, as you've been discussing, with what it's doing with all of our money?
I'm only smiling because I think you said $140 billion.
I meant to say million. trillion dollars.
That's a really big jump.
Yeah, I told you a billion times not to exaggerate, but anyway.
The only thing I can figure out, my best guess, is the extra money. I agree. We were told it was $94 million, and then we just bonded $124 million, I believe.
140.
140. Yeah. But the only thing that I can think the excess is for extra legal fees, and that concerns me.
Well,
but I don't.
In my conversation with Mayor Engen after that meeting, I said, "What's the extra money for it?" He said, "Well, in case things go spectacularly wrong." And I'm going, "What? Say what?"
Wait, is that possible?
Yeah. So anyway, so the extra money is there.
Well, and to me, that's a lot of extra money to put on the taxpayers and have the undocumented spending out there. That it just seems like a lot of the projects going on right now is here's what we're going to do and here's how you're going to pay for it.
Sure. Well, we're up against a break, 721-1290. We have all four lines open. If you'd like to talk to Lisa Triepke, this is your opportunity. She's far the only announced candidate running for mayor.
I expect billions of calls.
Billions. Thank you, John.
At 721-1290.
Well, get your fingers ready. All right, here we go. 721-1290 is our number. Four lines open. We'll be right back. And we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. John King right over there. I'm Peter Christian. Lisa Triepke, mayoral candidate, joining us here in the studio. So,
and our 1 billionth caller, the only one we let through, Jim, is on the line.
All right, Jim, good morning. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Say, I just have a curiosity question. I'd like to know a little bit more about Lisa, is her name?
Mm-hmm. Lisa Triepke.
Yeah, and so maybe she could explain to us in the audience here that what she's kind of done in the Missoula area, whether she's a native here or kind of, who she is.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Thanks, Jim.
More history, more about Lisa.
Thanks, Jim. So I have my work history in Missoula has largely revolved around community outreach with nonprofits and business development within these businesses. And I've spent the last years working with Cost Care, which is a phenomenal, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a phenomenal three clinic urgent care family practice in Missoula. And our business model was built on cash pay and no insurance. It was before the Affordable Care Act. And so we were able to provide quality, affordable health care for Missoulians and Western Montanans before any of the other health care issues came to pass. And it's been eye-opening because once the Affordable Care Act passed, we had to regroup and change our business model, but still keep our true mission in mind for saving people incredible amounts of money through the expensive healthcare world. And in each of my positions, I've been tasked with creating and being accountable for a budget that covers a variety of projects and keeping the projects coming in online and on time, or under budget and on time. And those areas are, I worked for Five Valleys Land Trust and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the UM Foundation, and then the Chamber of Commerce.
When it comes to that skill set of being able to do things on time, under budget, save money, where do you think the city of Missoula could save money?
I had an interesting question in one of the forums I was at recently, and they asked me if I would be afraid to come in and do a budget audit with the budget for the city, and I think that's absolutely necessary. I think it could obviously take several months, if not more, to do that, but I think that would allow us to look at different programs and processes and see if there's overlapping areas where we could combine services without affecting jobs or the services that we want and come to expect.
Are there any things that you've identified just as being a citizen of Missoula without the audit that you think that Missoula is overspending in? Or not doing an efficient job of spending?
Well, I think that some of the bread and butter services that we need as citizens, with our taxes continuing to raise, we are seeing that even the standard services that we should come to expect of citizens is not being done. I live one road off of a main artery, and there were at least two times that we had 10-day delays in getting our roads plowed. And like we mentioned earlier, I have 4 teenagers, 3 of them are drivers. One of them was in an accident because of unplowed snow. And I just think that we continue to see our taxes rise and rise and rise, and these services that we have seem to be falling lower and lower. And with that said, I credit the road and streets departments because I think they're working as hard as they can, but I think possibly the resources aren't being given to them to maintain the services that we need to rely on.
Well, I remember the last time we had the mayor on, I had taken a photo of my son standing in a pothole, and I had sent in a request for the pothole to be filled. Granted, I told the mayor about this, and he said they'll get to you in like 48 hours. And then I informed him that I had sent that request in more than 3 months ago, and I had sent in 3 more requests after that. And it's one of those things like that could take out my car. That could ruin a vehicle. It cost me thousands of dollars.
And you're in the city, right?
And I'm on the city.
Right.
It's part of their obligation to us as citizens to take care of this stuff. And it just seems like that sometimes if you're not in the right place, you don't get things taken care of in an efficient manner.
And I think that goes back to the affordable living because we all pay so much in our taxes, et cetera. And then when we have damage done to our personal property, et cetera, that we then have to pay for, it takes more out of that bottom line anyway. And it was interesting because another one of the conversations we had earlier on in our campaign process was there were cities in other cities that were actually becoming creative with their potholes and planting flowers, et cetera, and geraniums, et cetera. And then people would have to drive around so they wouldn't go over the flowers. And we just saw that happen in Missoula this week.
And so who did that? Was it just a private citizen or what?
It was a private citizen.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Of course, you're taking your life in your hands, going out in the middle of the street and planting flowers.
Welcome to Missoula. Dodge the daffodils.
Right?
All right, let's get to the phone, and Gregan is up next. Good morning, Gregan. How are you?
Good morning to everyone there.
What's up?
Question. Many cities are going to city managers and dumping the mayoral system, considering that there are a certain amount of financial and business skill sets required to run a large budget these days. What educational background do you have, ma'am?
Okay.
And I'll drop off.
Thanks, Gregan.
And let me go back to your city manager response or question. Also, I have worked closely with the city manager in Helena with my current position, and there's pros and cons to both sides of that, and it's not something that we've had discussions about that too. That could be a viable option as well. Regarding.
Do you prefer the option? I mean, there's 2 sides. Do you prefer one system or the other?
I don't know, and I don't have enough information to make a comment on that right now, but I do know that there's pros and cons, so it's not something I'm afraid to look at. And I know that as we enter the mayor race, obviously this is for the mayoral position, but I think that researching and reviewing all of the processes, nothing's out of the possibilities.
Would you support term limits for the position of mayor if you were put into power?
That's actually one of my 4 key campaign platform points, and I absolutely support term limits. And it's not just because I'm running and think that's a way to put a finite time limit on John, but I think that after 12 years and what could be 16, I think that you are more prone to continuing to make decisions behind closed doors with limited input, and you get comfortable and possibly too powerful in the position.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, but I want to ask you a question before the break, and we'll talk about it when we come back.
Okay.
Have you asked the mayor to debate you?
I have not.
Okay. Is that something you'd want to do?
I think everything's a possibility, but it will probably get closer to the election.
Okay. All right.
What about a body slam competition?
We're going to come right back. 721-1290 is our number. We have all 4 lines open. I think that's only reporters, John.
Oh, is that?
We're coming right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We have 3 lines open. We're talking with Lisa Triepke, mayoral candidate here in our studios this morning. John King is over there. I'm Peter Christian. And now Gregan asked a question. One of the questions he asked before we got to the other was, tell us about your education. Do you have the education to be able to walk into the city mayor's position and understand what's going on financially?
I believe I do, and similar to what I would say, John's background in journalism, my background and education is not in finances, but what I bring to the table is an innate ability to gather strong quality people around me, and I would prefer that I have a team of people that are specifically trained with the budget areas and to be able to work with them and make decisions thinking outside the box with a great group of minds rather than just mine.
And yet I have a picture of you in the same room with both Peter and myself. So I don't know.
That gives the lie to that statement. All right.
Do we have a caller? Cool.
We certainly do. Let's get Tanya on the line. Tanya, good morning. You're on Talkback.
Hey there. Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I've known Lisa for a while, and I am a friend of hers. But I am calling because I did not have any clue that she was even running for mayor until it came out in the paper. And I have to say that I just wanted to say thank you for having the concern about our city that you would even want to give us another option. Besides our mayor, like you said, the mayor, he does whatever he does. And just another option has been refreshing to know that you care that enough about our city that you would give us another option, like somebody else to look to work with, maybe perhaps. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Tanya.
Tanya, appreciate the call. All right.
I wanted to ask you a quick question about the bridge. So one of the big visuals for your coming out as a candidate for mayor was this picture of the bridge with a screw through it, a very aggressive kind of image. And I was hoping you could explain it. And what do you believe that image represents?
I think the image represents that Missoulians are tired of not being included in major decisions that affect our funding, whether it's direct bonds, revenue bonds, TIF funding, et cetera. We are not really addressed with again, I go back to my comment earlier where the projects are given to us and then we are told that we are now going to pay for it. So it's really an issue of just enough being enough in terms of our spending.
What do you think of the idea of tax increment financing? Because when I visited with the mayor with the opening with the bridge, I said, how is this being, are our taxes going up? And he was very emphatic to say, nobody's taxes is going up. This is funded primarily through tax increment financing. And I guess the way that works is the amount of growth that's happened in that South Reserve area with, the South Crossing and that sort of thing. I guess they put some of their taxes into a fund, and that fund is used for projects like, in my opinion, a totally worthless bridge. but that's just me. So anyway, how do you feel about that way of financing things?
Well, I think that Missoula has definitely seen some progress with the TIF funding, but I think now it's become so widespread that almost every area of Missoula is or such a high percentage of Missoula is covered by TIF funding. So in my mind, and from what I've learned through the process, is that it affects indirectly some of the resources that those or other areas get because the TIF funding is taking up resources in their particular areas.
Okay.
I was hoping maybe we could chat a little bit about the impact of TIF funding to property taxes. When asked, for example, not too long ago, whether or not there was any impact on the city for all these TIF districts, the mayor responded to Peter basically by saying, there's no loss here. How do you see the TIF system possibly impacting us negatively?
Well, and I think that's what I was just referring to is because the TIF funding stays within the specific pockets, and there's pockets of TIF funding all over the city that whether it comes to school bonds or other funding, et cetera, some of the resources are kept in those pockets and are not widespread across all city citizens.
So, in other words, I guess the way I would see it is that you've got a total amount of weight to distribute, a tax burden weight that you've got to distribute across the whole city. But because you've excluded these little islands, and they're not just a few, there's quite a few, then you push all of the burden of carrying the weight out to those areas that don't have that. And that means, frankly, my district has to pay more taxes in order to keep it going.
Correct.
All right. Now, we're going to get a call here in just a second. We'll get them on. But I want you to think about something. One of the we had some folks on from Israel yesterday, and we got into the topic of water. And, of course, water in Israel is very precious, and so they have ways of managing it that are very unique and that are being spread up quite literally all over the world. And one of the ideas that came out of that I'm going to be presenting, I'm presenting this to you, and I'm also going to be presenting it to Mayor Engen when I have the next opportunity, is when and if all this goes through and Missoula eventually owns the water company, in my opinion, there needs to be a citizen council to oversee the water company. So it's not just Mayor Engen and the city council and whoever's, the employees are, because it's going to be owned by the city. The citizens of Missoula need to have some sort of council to oversee what's going on, because the fear, although we've been told over and over again this is not going to happen, the fear is that when rates go up, it's not going to be to help the water system. It's going to be to help the city budget. So I want to know how you feel about that idea.
I absolutely am in favor of citizen councils. I think that's been the key. And again, one of my key campaign points is the lack of citizen or constituent involvement. And I think that we're already seeing a huge jump in what we've taken on in terms of debt, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. And so I think that you're dead on that there needs to be more citizen involvement. Okay.
And we're up against another break. Gregan, if you'll hang on, we have 3 lines open, 721-1290. Lisa Triepke is joining us in the studio. She's running for mayor against the only other announced candidate, and that's, of course, the incumbent, Mayor John Engen. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. And before we get to our callers, a couple of folks called, wanted some more information about Lisa's educational background.
You said you were a teacher of some kind. What kind of? No? Maybe I misunderstood.
No.
What is your education?
Actually, and I want to apologize because I was not answering the questions at all. The pace of the show just kind of switches subjects. So, Greg, and I appreciate you calling back. And so I graduated from the University of Dayton with a degree in communications and a minor in Russian, which was a whole other subject area based on my...
So she's the one who's been leaking it.
We've got the Comey transcript right here. We're going to start reading through it.
It was a wish of my parents for high school reasons to get into a charter school. I had to take Russian, but anyway,
okay, that's fine.
So I graduated with a degree in communications from the University of Dayton, and that led me to all of the positions that I've had here in Missoula, which were to work closely with volunteers, community outreach, marketing, et cetera. I also, because of that and my ability to reach out with the public, I served 8 years on local Missoula County school boards, and that was dealing with millions of dollars of budgets, and that was one of the sole responsibilities of the Board of Trustees. And I just finished Leadership Missoula, which is also, timing-wise, probably one of the key factors in me jumping into the race, because it gave us a behind-the-scenes look at Missoula and the way the city, the government,
What is that?
Leadership Missoula.
Yeah.
It's a program through the Chamber of Commerce, and it's long-standing, and I think Peter's just waving his hand.
Peter's I'm the leader.
He's a graduate.
I was in Leadership Missoula 1.
You were? That's awesome.
The very first one.
It's still a really thriving program and really rewarding.
It is.
Yeah.
You should take it, John. It's amazing.
This is before Montana even became a state.
Pretty much, yeah. we were digging in the hills, all that good stuff. But anyway, go ahead. It
just gives you a behind-the-scenes look at the political, cultural, arts, humanities,
law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
Everything.
Every factor or every facet of Missoula that we're fortunate to see through that program, because so many citizens don't get a chance to see it.
Yeah, this was back when Dusty Dayshaw, who is now a district judge, back when he was the county attorney, and he got into an almost knockdown drag-out fight over the death penalty.
Really?
And so you have these forums back and forth where you can discuss things with city officials.
Correct, and they encourage diverse and alternative conversations in terms of people having different points of view and coming to the table to reach solutions and thinking outside of the box. So it's been a fantastic program. And additionally, I've led up several or a few volunteer organizations in Missoula, primarily related with my children. I was tasked with taking over Missoula Youth Lacrosse about 4 years ago, and it had been a program that had been running for multiple years, and we were handed over a budget the bank account with $0 and some bills left to be paid. And within a year, based on setting and working with a budget and making sure we were staying on top of things, we were able to hand the program back over. I said 1 year, but after 2 years, we were able to hand the program back over to a new board to keep it going, and it's thriving. And
well, good for you. That's awesome. Okay, let's get back to the phones. Gregan's already been on once, so let's get Candy on. Candy, go ahead. You're on Talkback.
Hi. Good morning, Lisa. I'm full behind you with an audit of the city books, and I would suggest that you take it out of state for any kind of fairness at looking at these books. And I sincerely hope if you win this mayoral race, that some things would change. I have been studying on and off the city council for approximately 28 years. I ran for mayor in 2001 and against Cadiz, and the primary was on 9/11. So
wow.
I'll leave it at that. But what I have a complaint with is that when you walk into city council, you pick up an agenda. Any person that wants to find out what's going on in the city and they pick up that agenda, they don't get, I know they can't detail it in any way to my specification or liking, but there needs to be more information. So when somebody says, I'm going to go see what city council is all about, because I've seen the surges in participation go up and down. When I first attended, there were 30 people there speaking for the city, and then there were increases in like the accessory dwelling situations and like that. But the city doesn't promote on its own any kind of participation. And I would encourage a change in the agenda and the transparency. And I would hope that whoever won for mayor, if somebody comes along later or something like that, that there would be no decisions solidly made before the public is fully informed on what's going on, like the bridge and all.
Okay, thanks for your call, Candy.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. So
to illustrate her point real quick, just last week we had the decision come through about how much they were going to bond, right? Well, that whole document, all this stuff, the information was released to city council people, at least those, that were around
that day.
Less than 24 hours before they had the meeting to discuss it. The minds were already made up before the ink had dried. I mean, before the pen hit the paper. Basically, it was already there before they were even able to read it. It seems it's one of those. I don't know. It seemed like a Pelosi moment. Read it before you sign it, so we could find out what's in it, sort of thing.
Well, and I think that's one of the key parts of my platform that we keep coming back to is the transparency. And I think that if there's a concerted effort to keep information from people or in some way, I don't want to say hide, but maybe hide, I think that even the city council at that point can't make a fully informed decision or even better, have an informed discussion about an issue while trying to make a decision. And too often, I think decisions are made before they're walking in the room.
Last Thursday, the original meeting was supposed to be a few days before that.
Right.
And then several of the city councilors said, wait a minute, we haven't even seen this proposal, this newly revised proposal yet. So we don't want to make a vote on something we haven't seen yet. And so they put it off until actually election day.
Right.
Last Thursday, May 25th. And that was the day when there were 3 people missing from the city council that day. And it went through at a 9-0 called unanimous vote. Mm-hmm. So with 3 absences, with both of the proposals that were put through. So they had a chance to say it was unanimous. Okay, we got a Facebook comment, then we got to take a break.
Randy says, I'm an Uber driver, so I can't call in right now. I would like to ask if we could possibly expedite the repair or replacement of Russell Street Bridge. I've been beating this drum for 10 years for anyone who will listen. My family and I were 30 minutes away from crossing the 35W when it collapsed in Minneapolis, and it's a nicer bridge than the Russell Street Bridge.
Okay, we're going to come right back, and we'll have you answer that when we come back. We have Gregan on the line. We'll get you on as well. We have 3 other lines open for Lisa Triepke, who's running for mayor. We'd like to have your input as well, 721-1290. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. And we just had a Facebook question just a second ago.
Russell Street Bridge. You had mentioned a little bit about street maintenance when it comes to potholes. What about some of these larger infrastructure projects in the city?
I think that some of those they are covered by multiple agencies, and we don't have as much control over things like the bridge as we do completely local projects. So it's a matter of working together with those other agencies.
Yeah. And part of it too has got to be the squeaky wheel thing. Like what you cry and scream about,
right.
What the state will pay attention to.
And it also comes down to, like I said, prioritizing and the project list and the fiscal responsibility within those projects and working with what we have.
But if you look at the entire Russell Street corridor, now, Diane, you've been around for a long time. Diane Beck, our friend, is here. But anyway, how many years have they been trying to put that whole concept together? But the basically the neighborhoods on both sides of Russell have been at war for years over how to get this done, and so it ends up nothing gets done.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, that's my understanding. I mean, they've been studying that corridor for quite some time.
Still there.
And it's still there, and not a lot has changed other than they filled in. Remember, there was an underpass over there. They filled that in. JJ's Used Cars was really excited about that because then he had some street front property. But they've been studying it or talking about it for, I think, about 15 years.
Well, I laugh because there's still the Redevelopment Recovery Act sign from the Obama era on the right next to Russell School where I live near my parents' house, and they're still working on it apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so anyway, let's continue on. Greg, and go ahead. Thanks for holding, sir.
Okay, just 3 questions, and I'll get off the phone.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Charter schools, vouchers for private schools, and sanctuary city. How do you feel on all 3? Thank you very much.
All right. So charter schools, is that something that, now, first of all, as a mayor, would you have anything to say about charter schools? I'm not even sure if that would be in your bailiwick.
I don't think it would be under my purview because I think that would fall under the individual school districts and their board of trustees to enable something like that to happen.
We have a question from Kitty. Now, of course, if you're running for city government, everyone should know this if you don't, but municipal elections are nonpartisan.
Right. Correct.
But Kitty's going to ask you anyway. She says, is Mrs. Triepke a Republican or a Democrat? If she is a Republican, how will she be able to compete against a Democratic city council?
So you're correct. It is a nonpartisan race, and my campaign is middle of the road moderate based on financial responsibility. And I think that after all of the recent political elections and all of the politics that have gone on, there's parts to both parties that people can relate to and parts of each party that people are disgusted with, frankly. And so our goal is to attract people from both sides and to get as much support as we can.
So what about Missoula being a sanctuary city? Are you in favor or not? A sanctuary city basically means anybody who is an undocumented alien would be able to come here and have refuge.
Oh, and so I guess the easier term for that would be the refugee.
Well, not refugee.
Sanctuary city status.
Yeah.
I know it's something that people have asked Mayor Engen about, and he has leaned towards. Basically, it would mean that you wouldn't have city officials enforce federal laws when it comes to illegal immigration.
Well, I think that we're bound by federal laws, and I think that's what we're bound to.
It sounds
and,
like that would be a non-starter for you, right?
It's similar to the gun control issue where we passed something that didn't follow the federal mandates, and I don't think that's under our purview.
So you would have been against the gun ordinance, in other words?
I don't. It went against federal mandates, so I would follow what the federal guidelines tell us to do.
So in a situation like that, it wouldn't matter what your own opinion was.
Correct.
If federal mandates say this, then this is
correct.
Where we are.
Correct.
So, anyway.
Okay, John just has to know, how do you feel about elephants? Would you have banned elephants?
They're big and gray.
Yeah. Would you have gone ahead with the exotic animal ordinance?
I met with the Shriners. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, correct. And I think that that there was some. I think that the Shriners have worked long and hard for many years, and I took my kids to the circus there for many years, and the animals were a huge part of it, along with some of the other features of the show. But to take out a whole specific section of that, I don't know.
Let's put it this way: if you were mayor and that particular resolution came before the city council, is that something that you would endorse as mayor?
I think I would have to do more research on that to find out honestly.
All right.
When it comes to the city as you see it, what do you think the relationship is between the mayor and city council, and how would you operate in that position with the city council? Would you change any of the ways that, as you've seen it practiced so far?
As a mayor, I would like to see, or maybe change the culture to more openness, more open discussion, more opening for diverse conversations, and not just a top-down decision-making process. I think that there's people that try to put their opinions and their questions and just in terms of making an open and accurate and information-based decision, I think the conversation needs to flow both ways, and I'm not sure that's happening right now. And so I think it needs a culture shift.
There seems to be a difference in priorities to me when the city does certain things through the public and certain things on its own. So, for example, when it comes to building a facility to house and store all the evidence that the police gather for investigating crimes, which affect, I think we can say, each and every one of us, if you read the daily papers, when it comes to these high-speed chases down our streets, it seems like every other week. That is something that they go to the people for and ask for money and ask us to sign on to a bond. It's not something that they use general funds for. And yet when it comes to getting water for the Mountain Water Company, they don't go to the people. They just sign off on a deal and they get the money and go ahead with it. How would you prioritize expenditures?
I think that and I think you're dead on. And again, it goes back to my comment earlier that there's decisions made. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason, it seems like, and there's decisions made behind closed doors with a few people, and then we as citizens are told how we're going to pay for them. I think that if there's decisions based on a certain expenditure amount, then those should go in front of the public. What that amount is, I don't have an answer for you, but I think that is something that should happen.
Do you feel sometimes as though that the city council and the mayor are like, we're your parents. We know what's best for you. Let the grown-ups have the talks and make the decisions, and we'll let you know what's going on because you just need to trust us.
And I don't know if that's council-wide, but I do believe that comes from John Down, and I think that again, behind closed doors decision making needs to be opened up and an open discussion had by all instead of being coerced into decisions that have already been made.
Okay, we're going to come right back. We have just about 8 minutes left on the program. If you have a question or a comment for Lisa Triepke, give us a call, 721-1290. Okay, we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. John, you said you had an important question.
Very important question.
All right.
I think it's very important that our Montana officials, and especially our Missoula officials, are open to the public and responsive, which is something you've talked about. If you are voted in as mayor of Missoula, would you come on Talkback once a month, providing that you don't have a scheduling problem, and chat with the people and be frank and open with the public on an open-air radio show. I say this in this context. Mayor John Engen tried to do that. He got 3 episodes in before he cried and went home over a question about his personal pay. And there are going to be tough questions the public will ask you. I think you should be ready for that. But I do want to see if you are going to commit on the air to doing something like that.
I'm absolutely open to that, and I think that one of the reasons is the mayor's office is a voice for the people, and we need to be out there letting everybody, being transparent and letting people know what's going on. I'm not afraid of hard questions. I'm not afraid of tough issues. I live my life in a manner that everything is transparent. So I think being open and upfront is the best way possible.
Okay, now one of the things.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, one of the things that the mayor has to do, and if you're ever noticing what's going on, the mayor is kind of an ad hoc ambassador of Missoula.
Correct.
Okay, someone who represents the city. There are all sorts of events that Mayor Engen is called on, or any mayor is called on to do, like what's hosting this or going to this particular play and opening that and that sort of thing. Is that something you would feel comfortable doing, or are you more of a private sort of individual and not want to be in the limelight?
No, I'm totally fine with. I'm very social. I'm an extrovert. I love meeting and working with people. I will say, I'm not going to make promises I can't keep in this campaign at all. I have 4 children. I have a busy life. So when I get the key roles of the mayor done, if I would love to do as many outings as I can, but there would obviously be some restrictions.
Like okay.
We are almost out of time. Any final things you want to cover or talk about?
We have 3 minutes. Go ahead. So they're all yours.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm excited to run for this race, and I have a great group of people that are supporting me in this, and actually we had probably because of my past political endeavors and my experience on the school board, we had a lot of people approach me to ask me to step up and run for this position. The key points that kind of were the determining factor after we did some due diligence were when John came out and said every year he was in office, our taxes would go up. And then in the same week, he came out at a city club function and determined that he was mayor for life. And so when you put those 2 equations together, the writing on the wall isn't very pretty. I have a website, Triepke4mayor.com, where my issues are listed on there and more history. And I apologize, Greg, and if I still did not get back to you with the information you were looking for. And we have a Facebook page, if you can like and share that. And just to go back, because my name is spelled, it's an odd spelling. It's Triepke, 4mayor.com.
What does your last name mean? Any idea?
You would
it's one
have
of those nerdy things I had to ask.
You would have to ask my ex-husband.
Oh, okay.
All right. So let me ask you, we've got like about a minute and a half left in the show. What is it you enjoy most about just living in Missoula, aside from running for mayor?
Like I referred to earlier, I live here for the same reasons a lot of people do. Missoula is so unique, and there's such a connection to the land and to the people here. I think anybody you run into, we all have such solid friendships that we make from the day we move here through all years later. The relationships are key, and the land, you can't get a better spot. There's fishing, hunting, floating, skiing, every activity that you can imagine, and it's just a beautiful, pristine place. And the uniqueness of Missoula, the downtown area, just everything that Missoula offers it comes together to make it a special place to live. You
need to ask people to vote for you right here on our show. Don't get nervous. We have between 20 and 25,000 people that listen to the show every
billion.
day. So
actually, yeah, she's right. It's a billion.
Yeah. So ask them for your vote.
Well, I would love to have your vote. I'm here to offer a choice against John to be your next mayor, and I believe in working with a diverse, sound group of people to make smart decisions for Missoula, and that's what we're here for, is to work for you and not for you to work for us.
Right. Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And in the 1 minute we have left, I just want to say that if there's anybody from the mayor's office listening, our microphones and studio are open to you as well. If Mayor Engen would like to be on here in person or on the phone, we've had Lisa on. We've had all sorts of city officials on. Our door is, even though there seemed kind of a animosity going on here.
By the way, if you chose to do that, I know the opposition has to be listening. I will stop making fun of you for being a coward and leaving talkback if you were to come back on.
Anyway, so you're welcome to be on, and so tell us what's going on tomorrow's fabulous program when I won't be here.
We will speak with an attorney from the Montana Chamber of Commerce who's trying to make Montana's legal system a little bit more easy for businesses, make it a little bit more easier for people to do business in Montana.
Okay, so on behalf of Lisa Triepke, give us your website one more time.
Triepke, Triepke, 4, mayor.com, and the same Facebook page.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 6 for Montana Morning.